Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Been a bit of time since I've done a bit of talking camera stuff, but I figured it's time to talk about my custom built /8. This bike is an absolute ripper. I'm loving it so much. It's been so long since I felt so comfortable on a bike. This is obviously the 2022 Trek Slash. The model is the 8, so it's not 9.8 or anything like that. So it's got an alloy frame. The reason I went down that is it's more cost effective. Alloy frames tend to flip on the market a little bit cheaper and better. And yeah, I just like the look of it. And some of what I'll explain later, but the extra weight that an alloy frame has definitely helps my riding style and the way I like to ride a little bit more. I'm not a huge fan of super light bikes. As I said, this is a little bit of a custom build. I'll go through some of the parts on it. Basically, the forks, for starters, they are a Lyric Ultimate from about a year and a half ago. So they're not new ones with the buttercups or anything like that. These were on my Marin. I took them off. They've got a bit of special tuning and love from NS Dynamics in there, so they work amazing. The high speed and low speed compression is something I really love. And thanks to my mate Ben Kilsby for custom making me a rebound knob that has twice as many clicks, so it's got to be twice as fast. Still got the stock shock in it. Not a huge fan of the shock. I mean, I can make it work for the way I want it to, but it does require some some unique tuning for certain situations. As you can see, the fun meter is still not at the bottom, even though I'm sitting at 32%. And yeah, the drivetrain is still pretty much stock. I'm running a GX Eagle cassette and derailleur and shifter. Got an XO1 chain on there because I find that lasts longer and it makes a huge difference with shifting. Yesterday, I just put on these Unite chainring and cranks. Technically, they're not supposed to fit as they're a 52mm chain line. These require a 55mm chain line, but hey, there's 3mm to play there, so we made it happen. The wheels are a DTEX 511 rim laced to Factor hubs with DT competition spokes. The Factor hubs are amazing. I've been running them for about a year and a half now, still on the original bearings, even after a terrible winter. Still rolling smooth, the engagement is crazy, and they require very little servicing. The reason I went comps over Champs is because I do like a flexier wheel. I like a lighter wheel and something with a bit of movement laterally to aid in cornering and give me a little bit more compliance. I am running Cushcore in the rear just to prevent pin flats. The feel doesn't make any difference because I run 30 to 35 PSI. So, I mean, I can still roll a DH casing off if my fat ass tries to, but it works. The front is an Assegai and the rear is a DHR. I was running dual Assegais, but man, it was like doing weight training on every ride. The Assegai front is quite grippy. I like it. I like the grip front and rear, but it was just too slow rolling. DHR2 is the perfect rear tire for Adelaide during the winter. And if you cook it during the winter just enough so that in summer it's worn down a bit, it becomes the perfect summer tire. DH casing, front and rear, just because I like the way it feels. Little stouter, less flex when cornering, and they just tend to hold up and become a more predictable ride. As it is the first 2.5 inches of travel, essentially you want to kind of control that as much as possible in the way you like. And I like the way the DH casing feels. Got some deity bars on there, and I'm currently trialing the Ergon Fatboy grips, which are similar to the Sensors I was running, but they narrow down towards the thumb, and I was getting some thumb issues. And then to round it off, got some Magura brakes, which I'm frothing. They're so powerful, so tunable. A bit of a pain in the ass to bleed, but man, I froth them. They slow my fat ass down, and I can have a camera bag on the back with rolling down the steepest trail in the country, and it will still stop me. All right, so that's kind of how this bike is spec'd. It's kind of a medium enduro build, I guess. Nothing too crazy. Yeah, love it. The Verse saddle as well. I swapped out saddle to the Bontrager Verse saddle, which I love. And if I didn't love it, 30-day money back guarantee. It's pretty rad. Now, let's talk about how this thing rides. Obviously, as I said, it is built to be a medium trail / enduro bike. It's not built to be an all-round brawler. If it was, this would be having a coil on it straight away, and I'd put some Sebs or some 38s or some RXF 38s as well. It's designed to be climbable. It's designed to run some of the more pedally tracks around Adelaide. It's designed to be able to handle up to tracks like Thredbo, Medina, any of the bigger bruisier tracks. It can handle. Obviously, it's not the best, but it will work. The number, as I said at the start, I jumped on this bike and naturally felt at home. There's something about this geometry that allows me to sit in the center of the bike without being sat on top of it. I think the lowish bottom bracket partnered with a tallish top end allows you just to sit in that center and be in a nice riding position. Naturally, I rode it first at a downhill race, because why not? Get a bunch of runs, pushing the limits, and I was instantly in love. It just plowed through everything while remaining nimble. The head angle is not too steep or too slack. It's just in the middle for the way I like it. It gives you that kind of agility when climbing. The front tire doesn't flop around as much. And on the downs, it's just stable enough to be fun. Whereas if you go too steep, it's going to be a bit kind of tweaky and too slack, and it feels like you're driving a tractor everywhere, which is something I hate. The rear end kinematics and partner with this shock are a little bit quirky. I need to run 31 to 35% sag to get the suppleness out of the top, but let it go through all of its travel. It's not something ideally I would like to do. I'd rather run it at 25 to 20% sag. But when I do that, I barely use half the travel. There is a weird spike about 60 to 70% through its travel where the through shaft is maybe stopping doing its thing. I'm not sure, but it definitely feels like it's a damping error rather than a air spring error, because I'm running no tokens in there. And for me, to not bottom out of shock with no tokens feels a little bit quirky. So I'd love to try a normal tuned, normal non-through shaft shock. As it turns out, 2023, no through shaft. As far as reliability goes though, I sent it back because I thought I'd blown it, but it turned out to be fine. I've never had any issues with it, and it's been beaten up, not just by me, but by a few young rippers, and I haven't had any issues with it, which is quite surprising because they're notorious for that. But as I keep on harping on about, the rear end is quite playful, nimble, and allows you to ride with a bit of vigor. The flip side is you've got to be on your game a little bit. So when it gets rough and very, very heavy hitting, you kind of got to start to ride yourself and not let the bike do it as much. It's got the flip chip in there. I did try it in high once, but it gave me less of that in-bike feeling. That is the only reason I don't run it more. It still feels great. It rides as a real nice trail bike there, but just the feeling inside the bike and sitting on it instead of in it was a little bit disheartening. The reach isn't huge. I think it's around 490 to 495 on it. Something I like at 6'2" or 187 centimeters. It's not a huge long reach. I do wish they had a flip chip in the rear to shorten or extend the rear stays, the chain stays, to give me a little bit more of a longer, more planted rear end. But if we were to do that, it would lose its playfulness a little bit. So it's a bit hit or miss. That's why a flip chip would be rad. Unfortunately, due to the APB braking system here on that rear axle, it's unable to be done. Now we're talking about APB. Technically, this is a single pivot bike, and I'm not a huge fan of single pivot bikes, but there is something magic going on with this thing. It is by far the best braking bike I have ever ridden. It takes so much energy to purposely lock up the rear wheel because the rear end is tracking so damn well that it always keeps that grip, keeps that wheel spinning, keeps your braking controlled. You never have to worry about braking traction just randomly or having to feather your brakes too crazily because it's going to break the rear traction. It just grips and grips and grips. And yeah, as I said, the only downside is if I want to skid or maneuver that rear end, it requires a little bit more body language, but hey, grip is good. Partnered with that front end, it just rips. It's literally grip and rip a bike. I'm playing around with head stem lengths at the moment on it to try and slow down that front end a touch. So I'm running at 50 at the moment, which I like. But a 35 has its benefits as well. Gets your weight back off the bike. So in Medina, some of those steeper tracks might run a 35, but at the moment I'm sticking with the 50. Got a fresh WRP stem coming for it at some point in a 50 mil. So yeah, essentially, I know it's a shit review, but what I'm trying to get to is that this bike is one of those all-round enduro bikes that can plow, can go through the gnarliest stuff in the world, but yet if you're riding a tamer trail where there's less bumps, less rocks, and you require less body language to kind of get through the stuff, it doesn't become a tame, boring tank on a freeway. It still has this liveliness, this ability to be playful, this ability to kind of enhance your ride no matter what the track is. I think a lot of that is to do with the kinematics, not so much the geometry itself, but the way the suspension has been set up. Literally, this bike is one of those, I hate to say it, quiver killers, because buy all the bikes you want. But it is a bike that I don't want to get rid of because it literally does everything. 60 plus K massive all day loops to racing downhill tracks. Flat out, there is not a situation where I've been disappointed with this bike. Yeah, I literally can't say enough good things about it. So yeah, hopefully this kind of gives you some idea about the Slash. One thing I will point out before I forget is it has got the lunchbox here for a bit of food and stuff, but unfortunately it's a little bit small for the 29-inch tubes, which this runs. So that's a little bit of a downside. Some of the pivots come a little bit loose every now and then, but nothing some Loctite can't fix. Highly recommend Loctiting all of them. And yeah, the rear pivots come loose as well. And yeah, don't forget, if you're in a rush, that UDH comes undone with a right-hand thread and a left-hand thread. Anyway, as I said, beautiful bike, absolutely love it. Can't see myself getting rid of it unless it is to buy another one. Future upgrades I'll be looking at is perhaps a Fox suspension kit or an Olin suspension kit throughout. Go 38s on the front, maybe try a coil, and then have an interchangeable setup where I can run either or. This GX drivetrain is great, but it's not mind-blowing. So whether I want to go down an Axis path or perhaps try Shimano, who knows? I'll give that a go. And then, yeah, rear shock. And I can't wait to give these cranks a go. So these Unite cranks from Lead Out Sports are art. I don't want to scratch them, but I'm definitely going to rip them. So hopefully that review has been good. Gives you a bit of an idea of what I like about the bike, what I don't like. And yeah, sorry for rambling on too much.